We're going to call this HX, Human Experience Design, and we're going to call it HXD. And they were like, what are you talking about, HX? They don't even know what UX is here, And I said, well, we're going to teach them, and we're going to show them that it's bigger than just UX. We're looking at the rise of what I call AX, which is the artificial experience. So the rise of AX, right? So you might see, design thinking could be artificial thinking, and you might see product designers doing prompt designing, right? And you might see, all these different things rising and happening, right? And I think what's going to be interesting is the evolution of that. I said, well, what if we were to create digital twins of ourselves?
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Inez Talks. Today we are joined by Roger Rohatgi. Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
No, thank you. I know we probably want to jump straight into it. One of the main things that I really wanted to talk to you about is, I guess, just your journey overall. I know we've had some kind of conversations outside of this podcast, and you did tell me that before getting into the world of design, I'm not sure if many people know this, but you actually produced a film.
Yes, I did. It was quite a while ago. And I think the story is really more, I got a chance to do it, and being able to come up with that concept and write it actually came to me. It came to me like in a dream. And so when I woke up, I had this idea, and I started writing this little, I guess what you would call a treatment for a script, and then it turned into a script, and then turned into making the film, and then turned into an International Independent Film Award. So yeah, it was kind of wild. And yeah, well, that's the thing. It's not really out there to see anymore, but these days. But it was just part of my journey, and an amazing way to kind of start and go deeper in the way design was manifesting. Because I think when I started, there was a lot of graphic design going on in that time, and I was getting into that, and was starting to get further into web design. But what I loved is bringing those static designs to life and bringing motion to moments that people were seeing that were static. So film and even television and stuff really kind of drew me in to do that more.
Yeah, it's very visual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. And so how did that transition happen? I appreciate, obviously, that's the kind of love for the motion design, etc., graphic design. But when did that penny drop that you were like, I want to be a designer, and that kind of career path into design? How did that start?
Yeah, well, I don't think it really was that penny drop moment for me. I wish it was. I wish it was like, yes, I know exactly what I want to do in life. As a matter of fact, I probably didn't know at all what I really wanted to do. And I think when I was probably little and younger, I didn't really think about it. Every kid says I'm going to be a something, or whatever. But actually, most kids were walking around when they were little, and they were, when they're asked, around me, they were like, well, I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be a fireman, or I'll be some lawyer or something like that. These things that society thinks maybe people might be good.
You end up dressing up as a kid.
Yeah.
Usually like the costume.
Right. So I said, basically, when I was a kid, I said, well, when I grow up, I want to be a Jedi. So it was totally the opposite, right? And so I tried to be, and I guess, I don't know, maybe like a kind of an interesting thing, because I think those films kind of lured me into the world of imagination and what could be done far in a galaxy far, far and away. Yeah. And I remember being as a kid, maybe just one interesting story. At least to me, it was a really hot summer. I'll never forget this. And I think Return of the Jedi had just come out. And back then, I think Luke Skywalker was, the Jedi Knight that wore like this, really cool black outfit with these really cool black boots, and he had the green lightsaber, and he took on the galaxy and fought Darth Vader, right? There's all the the whole thing, and Yoda's like, the whole thing, and it was crazy, right? And so, and Chewie's there, right? There's all that, and so I think there was like this thing where I was just drawn into these incredible movies, right? And so we as kids, it seemed to play out in our life. Like we had makeshift lightsabers, and we found ourselves, like feeling the Force, if you will. And so I remember that I had a really important purpose and a really important destiny that I discovered early on, and that was to save the galaxy, at least on my neighborhood block, And there was a girl down the street, maybe that was also who I wanted to save. So the Princess Leia of the block of the street, right? And it was being really hot. It was in the middle of summer. I remember I had to save the galaxy, and to do that, I had to have black boots. And because that's what Luke Skywalker had. And so, of course, being in the middle of dead summer, who is selling black boots for children anywhere in the world? So I went to my mom. I said, Mom, I got to have black boots. And she's like, but it's in the middle. So where am I going to find? And I used just one simple trick. You will buy me black boots. And that Jedi mind trick worked. She took me, well, no, she took me straight to this department store. And when we got there, there was these, they were there on display. There was some, right? And you could just feel the, and I'm just like trying to bring them toward me with the force. And then all of a sudden, we see this guy pop out to, sell us the shoes or whatever. And she says to the gentleman, hey, so my son would like these boots or whatever. So he goes to the back and he comes back out and he says, I'm sorry, ma'am. These are the last 2 boots that we have. There's only 2 left on display. And they're a size little boys, maybe like, I'm just going to make this up, but like 9, and a size little boy is like 11. So 2 different sizes. And he says, and they're 2 left feet. And my mom's like, she looks at me, she looks down, and I look at her, and she says, I don't think we're going to be able to get you the black boots. And I said, you will buy me black boots. And truly that summer, I saved the galaxy. But I did it with 2 left feet, 2 different sizes, but I saved the galaxy, and that's what it was about, right? So, and that's what inspired me, I guess, to get even deeper into movies. And I think that when I began to actually think about what I wanted to write, or from that moment, that dream, it had probably like hints of all that along the way.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I think I mentioned to you earlier, I think for me, I was probably on the opposite side of that, but very much Disney films.
Right.
Probably Disney princesses.
Which one?
Ariel.
Awesome.
Honestly, I remember
yeah.
having it on the videotape, and I just rewatched it.
And what was the motivation, right?
I think talking to animals, like
Yeah.
animals could speak.
Yeah.
I don't know, but obviously as kids we just have so much imagination.
Right.
I was even something I was talking to Dan Mikowski with when I had him on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
I was saying like, as kids we can even just take like cardboard box and just turn it into this amazing like palace out of just cardboard. And I guess it relates to being a designer. You kind of keep that creativity with you as you kind of get into adulthood, which is really exciting.
Well, and I think there's other themes that we connect with, right? So she, had, this incredible, gift to, be something that she was finding her identity, and she becomes, she has this, she knows she's destined for something greater. She has all these really powerful things that she wants to bring to the world, right? She knows that she has to overcome all these things. And, and same with like the Jedi story, it's like this, it wasn't perfect. There's, like this backstory of, pain and struggle, but, somehow we can make a difference in the world, and I think that there's these themes that we all resonate with,
Well, let's hope we are making a difference. But amazing. And in terms of obviously where you are now, obviously I know we've kind of touched on childhood. Are you able to sort of talk me through how that journey has evolved, and how have you gotten to where you are now?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think, so from that, those summers, wielding makeshift lightsabers and blasters or whatever, I think I really didn't have a thought of like, this is what I want to do, is I want to be a designer, I want to do this. But what I kept falling into was a love for being able to creatively express myself, and creatively express it in a way that people really enjoyed what I created, or they could use what we made or whatever. So I quickly got into graphic design as I grew, and then then the world of web started coming up, right? And I remember and like, I've said this before in different places, but I remember like Flash was a thing, and Flash website, and I remember creating this website that was interactive, and it was like Transformers. It would open up and click and had all these special effects and sound effects and things, and it was amazing, right? It was like all this investment into it. I was a young creative director or leader, and I was trying my best to pull this vision off that I had. And when we released it, it was amazing. But in America, there was no high-speed internet, so it took 15 minutes to load. And so I always say that I created the most amazing website that nobody ever saw, because no, but what I realized then was that it was really about, to us, like, hey, you can create these amazing things, but if people can't use it, then you're kind of, failing in some ways or whatever. And that's the most important thing. We need to understand how people use this thing, or how do we create something that people can see, and that evolved my thinking. And so user experience wasn't really formally known back then. It wasn't called UX and all these great terms that we have. So it kind of evolved over time. So and so then I went on to get deeper and deeper into what I was doing, especially in entertainment. And I had been brought in to be the creative director of 2 national television networks. And they wanted me to rebrand those television networks. But again, just with just the way I was thinking, I was like, well, there's got to be something more, right? There's got to be something different. And so I remember that this company had, had something involved with the CEO with a social network before, and so I said, what if we combine social and television together and create social TV? And which really wasn't a thing back in the US at that time. And so when we did that, I remember like creeping out of my area where I was working, this cubicle area, and thinking like, I'm going to go present this to the CEO. I had just joined. I'm thinking, this is the end, right? I'm going to either get fired right on the spot. My job never really fully started. Yeah, like he's going to think I'm crazy or tell me to just be quiet and just, whatever. And when I went into this, his office, I told him what I thought we could do and interactive television, all these things. And he was like, let's do it. And I was like, let's do it. Okay. I don't know what to do. Well, we're going to do it. And we did. And we,
it's just an idea. And now how do we put it in?
Yeah, that's the one thing, right? You might have an idea and you're like, okay. And then someone actually buys into that idea and you're like, okay, now I got to actually make this thing. It was the same thing with the film. Like I didn't know all the things I had to do. Like I had to, have all these like legal things to, all these agreements and, waivers and things like that. I wanted to crash a car in a lake. So I had to like make sure that it was gutted. It was environmentally safe. I make sure that it was all, done properly. Right. We had a helicopter that came and landed. We had a burning building and stuff like that. So we had to make sure that it had burning safety and things. So you can say all these things, write all these things, but then there's all that stuff to play it out. So even then, so with that television area, social TV hadn't been a thing. And so we launched the first social television network in the United States. And that was interesting because then people like Mark Burnett came in and got involved, who created The Voice and Survivor and these shows. And it really was an innovative time of being able to put people on TV from anywhere at any time. Yeah. And you could, once you were on TV, or before you were on TV, you get a notification that you can let your friends know you're going to be on TV. So if you wanted to perhaps pop the question on TV, somebody would get that notification, and then you would get a air check back, and you can post that. So anyway, so that was interesting because we were creating something that had never been done before, where people were leaning into television, and we had to create a whole new user experience of how people would interact. And I remember like people normally would film like this when camera phones were first coming out, and in a more portrait way, and we had to force the camera to be landscape so we could get it on television, right, to be 16 by 9. And that was a new thing. And so many different things that we put in. Ultimately, we started working with different brands, different television networks, and some of that ended up going into like an app called Vine, I think that some people have said. And
pre-TikTok.
Yeah, pre-TikTok.
Yeah.
And then we worked on some really crazy stuff. Like I remember and some of it never saw the light of day. So these are all the things that you wish came out, never did, but you worked on it and hoped that it would. But I mean, like there was the Taylor Swift Swiftie social network. This that was interesting time.
That would go wild today.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd be amazing. I'd be a part of it. I'm a Swiftie on the inside for sure. I learned way too much about Swifties that I need to know, but it was really cool at the time because you're researching this stuff. Yeah. I think so we created something, and again, it would have been cool if it actually launched, but the Kardashian Club with 2 Ks, and there was. Yeah, stuff that we mocked up for everybody from Drake to Bruno Mars to the UFC or whatever, right? From ZTV to MTV, right? ZTV in India. Anyway, so that journey led me into more and more digital as things began to rise, more and more social and applications and things. And then, I think I found myself leading design in larger places, and even getting a chance to lead global design in places like Motorola and others. And so when BP reached out to me, I wasn't thinking about energy or that sector or whatever.
Especially coming from like entertainment, it's like chalk and cheese, really.
Yeah. And by that time I had moved into leading software. I understood the business side of design and all that. But yeah, I wasn't thinking about this. So when I got a message on LinkedIn.
I was going to ask you, how was it a call and you're in a boardroom? Like, how did this?
No, it was a straight up recruiter DM in LinkedIn, like most people. Yeah.
He's living life right now.
I don't know, but I mean, she's amazing actually. She was actually, and I know that's a big thing for a lot of people to that are in the recruiting business. Like, she's the one that made the biggest impression on me, I think, at first. And I think if she hadn't have been so caring and so accessible to answer questions and kind of help me along the way, I probably wouldn't have maybe gone as far as I did with the concept. But she was like really, really cool about it.
There's good ones out there.
Yeah. So a great recruiter is something really special. So anyway, so I was like, why are they reaching out to somebody like myself? And they said, hey, we're going through this massive digital transformation. And we've got AI, XR, MR, VR, robots going up walls, through pipes, underwater, fleets of drones. And we need someone to help us with all this transformation from a technology standpoint. But when I look back at all of my career with all these different areas, whether it was for the silver screen or designing for digital, even the small screen on our wrists, I realized that every single one of those screens, there was just real people on the other sides of those. And what got me excited was actually we weren't designing or creating great content or great experiences for the sake of those. It was because we wanted people to enjoy it. We wanted to make their lives better. And we wanted to put them at the center of the equation. And so I asked BP, how are you doing that? And they said, well, I think we need some help. In that. And so I said, well, maybe that's the challenge.
Yeah, I think it's amazing looking at, because before you went in, I mean, they had design, but not as design to be at BP now. So the transition has been incredible. And I mean, I know you still probably, even from your point of view, I'm sure you're like, we've still got a long way to go, but even just looking at it from like the outside perspective, it's been incredible to watch.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it is. You're right. You do see the side where you're like, oh, there's so much more to do. But it's been a wild journey. Actually, and to your point about, was design there, it was interesting because when I came in, design was there. Yeah. But it was all through third parties and partners that were there. And there was not a single perm design person that was badged and titled. There were people there that were trying and wanting to do that, but oddly, I became the first design person as it relates to UX and digital, I think, in BP's 100-year history. And so that was really wild. And so even though there were hundreds of designers that weren't obviously with the company perhaps, but working on it, and thousands of designs that were some good and some different and all disconnected, but there was nobody actually doing design, like big design. Yeah. And so when I came in, I remember people were asking, like, what do you want to call this, right? And I said, well, we're going to call this HX, Human Experience Design, and we're going to call it HXD. And they were like, what are you talking about, HX? They don't even know what UX is here, And I said, well, we're going to teach them, and we're going to show them that it's bigger than just UX. Because things had evolved by the time I got into BP in the design world, and HX is UX plus CX plus EX. Because really, if you want an incredible customer experience, you have to have a very solid user experience. And to get that really solid user experience, you have to have a really authentic employee experience that works and people love it. Because people, your customers will know when your employees aren't, getting that experience. And so that HX is that full human experience that we're trying to bring across the line and really embed that human-centric thinking into the company.
Mm-hmm. So obviously all around sort of human-centered design, things like that. You mentioned to me that you're at the Design for Good event in London at the moment. Yeah. Does that kind of fall into sort of mission-driven principles? Like, what's the type of things you were discussing there?
Design for Good is a collection of, right now at the moment, 13 or so chief design leaders in the world that have come together to form an alliance to bring their collective designers together to work on the United Nations Sustainability Goals. So we have 600 plus designers working around the world to work on certain goals for the United Nations that can impact those for the United Nations. And then each one of these companies lays no claim to that IP. So it's a really amazing thing that we can do that and then give it away to the world. And I think what's interesting is the people that I've been involved with, like Mauro Puccini, who leads design at Pepsi, and you have Taman Evans, who leads design at General Mills, and Jimena at Nestle, and then other brands like Philips and Lloyd's and Microsoft and Logitech and so many great organizations really working to make that difference. And so I was excited to be here in London. We had our second year of this coming together of everyone showing the projects they're working on. It was phenomenal to see how much these designers are making an impact around the world.
No, definitely. I can imagine it's really exciting to find out, because obviously you know what you're doing. I can imagine that's quite a collaborative conversation, if anything, as well.
Yeah, it is. No, and I think what people are starting to realize is that it's really exciting to be able to design for that and design for two things. We look at it like, I look at it like net zero UX, how we design for decarbonization and how we decarbonize our designs. Because when we look at decarbonizing our designs, I think there's like over 1.5 billion tons of CO2 expended annually by internet usage alone around the globe. So this digital footprint, that's not including probably all the Bitcoin crunching and AI servers and all these things that are happening with the NVIDIA cards and things, and all these things that are rising with IoT. So who knows how big that number is, to be honest. But we're all part of that, and we're all consuming content right and left, and you mentioned TikTok and these brands and whatever. It's all happening simultaneously. But how can
billions of people?
Yeah. And so how can we come together as companies and organizations to figure out how do we actually work to decarbonize our designs and our digital footprints and things like that? And it's not easy. Obviously I'm personally still working on it. We're all still working on it. And there's ways to do offsets like we do at times. And there's other ways to get involved. But it's actually a collective effort with companies around the globe. And then there's the other side of not just decarbonizing our designs, but designing for decarbonization. And that's the future of how we design for people who want to charge and how to make that experience better, or different other aspects.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. I think the future of it is going to be, I think we all need to start thinking about what we're doing even in ourselves. This is a bit different to design, but obviously because you're embedded in it daily in terms of like decarbonisation, is there anything that you think that listeners and ourselves or even me can do daily just to help with that journey? Any tips that you've learned along the way?
Well, I think the first thing is just asking the question, right? And I think is really taking a step back to say, hey, look, I can create this, I can design this, or I can even do this in my life, but and it can actually help people. Like, imagine think about the water bottle example. Some people say, everybody needs water, they need it on the go, right? Let's create a bottle and, let's get that in everybody's hands, right? And so, but people didn't think, well, how will that plastic break down in the environment, right? And so they didn't consider planet first. And so I think right now, a lot of times we think about ourselves first. We think about, and even in design, we think about our customers and people, which is great, right? We're human-centered, we're human first. But also, what if we were to think about our planet first too, right? And put that together at the same time. And so it's just conscious little decisions along the way that add up to really awesome, bigger things that we can maybe make a difference on. But there's other things too. Sometimes, switching to dark mode instead of light mode. Yeah, things, it could be not for every screen and every device, but there could be ways to do that. Yeah, but there's way more things obviously that people know, like the sustainable things that you do through eating and the way that you handle your footprint and things like that, and even offsets. Even when you have to travel for things and do things, there's ways to actually pay for offsets and things like that too. So and invest in that. So I think, but I think what you said is most important, like just thinking about it, asking the question, and consciously making decisions. And there's people out here that do it way better than probably I've ever even imagined, and we need their help too to think about that.
Yeah, daily, I think.
100%.
And taking it back to like atomic design, what are the benefits of using atomic design from your standpoint?
Yeah, so actually Atomic Design 2.0. And so being able to start from particles, which is like color, shape, text, and size of things, and then move into atoms, which could be a button, when you put all those together, and then moving up through organisms and molecules, organisms, and then blocks or templates into pages was really special. So this obviously, Atomic Design obviously wasn't established by us or anybody. It's Brad Frost actually. So it's really principles that a lot of companies use, a lot of designers probably already are familiar with. So it's nothing new. So they see the benefits. I think for a company who doesn't already know that and hasn't read Atomic Design or even looked up Atomic Design 2.0. But I think that if you get into it, you see the value of being able to have a cohesive design language and connective tissue across the globe, that you can actually now have apps created for all sorts of areas that connect, right? And now we can leverage it, right? And so I think that's part of the really interesting, exciting thing, because then you can whatever you design and whatever you create, they're all connected together and they're able to be reused. And so you can go faster, saves a lot of money, hopefully, because now you're not starting from scratch. Because everyone's heard the anecdotes of, the button costing $1 million because you have so many different teams working on it and then redoing it over and over again, and then they have to go all the variations of buttons, right? There's the drop down button, there's the the hover state, the click state, and all these different states, right? And so if we have all that predefined, we can move faster, right?
And when you first obviously started the design system from scratch, sometimes I speak to other design leaders at different companies, and they say, oh, we based our design system off this company because we knew they had a good one. Appreciate, I don't know if that is the case, but was there any inspiration of a like solid design system that you took from at the time, or?
Yeah, no. So we created it from scratch.
Okay.
It's 100%, our in-house work that we built up. But of course, there's always inspiration. There's so many great companies doing big things, and you see, companies like Google with material design, or Salesforce has Lightning, and there's other ones that are out there. I think at one point I heard that Trello's was called Nacho. And I love all the names of these design systems.
Yeah, amazing. And then obviously I know you're here, there, and everywhere doing kind of conferences and speaking arrangements and stuff like that. And I know a lot of the topics that you end up talking about is around like the future of AI and what that looks like in design. I guess both kind of coincide, but also separate at the same time, and just in generally for the world and kind of our future.
Yeah.
I appreciate it's a bit of a broad question and we can kind of hone in on it, but I guess what are your general thoughts around what the future in AI and design looks like?
Yeah. It is broad. It's big. It's evolving. I think.
The whole podcast.
Yeah. I think we're all trying to figure it out, right? Yeah. I don't think anybody has the perfect answer, or and it probably could change tomorrow. Maybe AI will change it.
Yeah.
Maybe ChatGPT has the answer. I don't know. But I think. I think there's been like just like we've been evolving in design over the years, and all these areas. I think obviously there's been an evolution of AI going on at the same time. As a matter of fact, I had looked at and created this, a timeline of all the big moments in UX and how that's grown. Since if you go way back to even beyond Bell Labs, way back in history, and what they were doing back then in Toyota and all these things, to even 1955 when Henry Dreyfuss wrote the book on designing for people. And then I overlaid that on top of the timeline of AI, which also, oddly, in 1955, AI, the artificial intelligence term, was coined at Dartmouth College. So that same year, 1955, at Dartmouth College, they coined artificial intelligence. The same year that Henry Dreyfuss wrote the book Designing for People. So designing for people and designing for machines was happening at the same time in the same year.
Is there somewhere we can see this?
Actually, so I gave a talk on it last year at Product Design Week, which was really great with the Iconic Group, and so without that talk will be released. But it was interesting because you'll find some interesting nuggets in 1955.
Yeah.
Just a little taster. Steve Jobs was born in 1955. Bill Gates was born in 1955. So Steve Jobs, Apple, Microsoft. Tim Berners-Lee, who created, I guess, the internet, was born in 1955, and Einstein died. Yeah, Einstein died in 1955, and there was some pretty wild stuff. Anyway, so yeah, if you watch that talk, there's some other interesting, funny tidbits. But if you look at the journey along the way, it got me thinking, right? Because November 30th, I think 2022 will be looked back in history as probably as a significant date, and that was the day that I believe that AI may not have become aware, but people became aware of AI. That was ChatGPT's big thing, launch, right? And since that moment, I think, November 30th, 2022, it's been in the topic of every conversation, whatever. I was just in Cannes for Cannes Lions, and down there, everybody was talking about that. It was on every rooftop, on every beachfront installation, every yacht, every building, every villa, and that was the topic of all these CMOs and all these leaders and all these creative people. Even Will.i.am and Elon were there, right? And they're all talking about all these different things that relate to that. And so for us, how do we leverage that? How do we do that? Or even in design. But then we started thinking, what if we created digital twins of our customers and trying to get closer to understand them better? And so we started feeding in that information and that data to create what's called synthetic humans. And these synthetic humans helped us do the first, we believe, AI sprint that's been documented in the world to go through that with a group called Fantasy that created that, as well as Harvard. And so we worked with Harvard Business School on this amazing design sprint, AI design sprint. And what we were able to do and achieve in that was really interesting. And what we learned from that was really interesting. And so what I came out of that from is that, and you can look some of that up online. There's some things on Wired Magazine and Fast Company and things like that on that if you Google synthetic humans and us or whatever. But then there's the interesting thing about AI that I started thinking of my own personal self, right? These are my personal thoughts.
Oh, let's get into it.
Yeah. So over the course of our design evolution, right, we've gone from different things that we called it, graphic design, user experience, UX, experience design, XD, all these different things. And I think we're now, and I even dropped, we have CX and EX and HX, right, human experience. But I think we're looking at right now the rise of what I call AX, which is the artificial experience. And AX is quite interesting because today, or in historically, we've had humans designing for humans on what humans need and want. Perhaps now rising is how AI or machines may design for humans on what they think humans want. And now humans...
To wrap that sentence around in my brain again.
So humans will start experiencing things that are artificially created. And you're already seeing that with maybe deep fake kind of videos, with the new things that they're doing with Sora and stuff like that.
I mean, if you look into a company called Zendesia, which use their platform as well, and it's, you video it, you read a script, and then all of a sudden you have an AI avatar that you can send out, create videos. You don't even need to, get up in the morning.
Right.
So you can look as if you're
exactly
up and ready.
Yeah, no, it's exactly. No, so will.i.am was, we were at this breakfast with him, and he was talking about a company that he invested in, but he basically dropped these lyrics, and then he played this song, and it sounded like Luther Vandross, and it was in 2 minutes. He created it, and it was the most amazing song that we all heard. And he is, asked the company like, "Hey, hold on for a minute, right? Because this, you can take any song, and it can create, any lyrics, and it can create any artist's voice."
Yeah, I have seen that around. Actually.
It's wild. Yeah, and even when I was at this one conference in the Bay Area. There was a woman that stood on stage, and she introduced a singer. He got up, he sings this amazing song, he starts singing, and then he pulls up another mic and he sings another part of that song in her voice. Wow. And then he pulls up both mics and sings it in his and her voice and does a duet with himself live, real time, AI, real time singing. I was like, whoa, this is getting.
And you witnessed that?
Yes, yeah. I have it recorded. It was really cool. But so the rise of AX, right? So you might see. Design thinking could be artificial thinking, and you might see product designers doing prompt designing, right? And you might see, all these different things rising and happening, right? And I think what's going to be interesting is the evolution of that. So when I started thinking about, the digital twin side of our customers and things, I said, well, what if we were to create digital twins of ourselves? And what I started realizing is that there's a concept out there, and even Wikipedia has a definition of this, but it's called multipotentialites or multipotentiality. And it's about people have multiple wants, needs, desires, gifts, and talents, and...
I'd love to sing.
Yep, there you go. We might have to get that here today. You might hear this. Do you do Ariel?
If I have it up, I could probably try.
Okay, and if not, we'll get will.i.am to do the with his app. Yeah, but imagine like you just mentioned, like you could get up, put a script in, and that would I don't even have to come to this talk. Actually, AI could do this. And just repeat the script, because that's happening. Some of my colleagues out there in the world of design at these speaker circuits, they actually had one where they loaded the script, and he actually didn't go to the conference, but his avatar did his whole entire talk for him. But imagine being on a Teams call or a Zoom call where I don't really need to be on it. But imagine, like, it's not just getting my notes, but it's me on the call actually responding and talking on the call, and I wasn't even on the call, but it has how I would respond perhaps. And imagine another version of myself that is handling all my bills and interacting with different things, and another version of myself that's doing different types of digital tasks for me. And then I have another version of myself in let's say Roblox or another game that I might have another avatar. And in all those spaces, I have different needs. I have different versions of myself. I might like Coca-Cola out here, but in that virtual world, I like Pepsi or whatever, right? And so now you have something that could be transforming, what I call multimorphic marketing, where all of a sudden you have brands that will be catering to not just you, but all those other areas, other traits and things and needs that you want. So they might find that you need this, but they realize actually, but your other version of yourself needs this, and you have all these different parts of yourself that that have been expanded and multiplied. And then interesting, if you move into, and this is just my personal thoughts, into hiring and things like that, and companies then won't be just hiring you for you, but they could be hiring you for all the versions of you that come with you. and you have the ability now to do all these different things that they realize, and you've trained all these things on your personal digital DNA, and now these digital twins of yourself, or this multi-potentialites that are part of you, now come to a company, and it didn't take you away, but now it multiplied the incredible things that you can do.
So in terms of having multiple, I guess, personalities, how would you call it? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, So being multi-potentialites or multi-potentiality. So really having multiple versions of ourself in digital virtual ways, right?
And ethically, how do you think that works?
Well, so today,
we don't know yet.
we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So, but it's rising, right? So that same question can go for anything that's coming right now for AI. Just all the different examples that we talked about that people are using AI for today. There's ethical questions around that, right? I think the interesting thing we have today as designers, the opportunity we have today as designers, to actually be the ones that stand up for responsible designing responsibly, helping be a part of including inclusive design methodology and loading in ways to remove bias and create better quote unquote empathy for humanity. Because that's what we do, and doing it now for machines before that can get out of hand. So I think ethically, us being involved and having humans, right, we call it human in the loop, or at our company, human machine teams and so forth. But I think having versions of ourselves is actually it may not be an ethical problem. It just might be a problem of being able how to handle and manage that many. I don't know if my exactly. But that's exactly what I mean. Yeah. Think about it, right? If you have, like today, you have people doing side husles, but if you had an AI,
you're 9 to 5, you're doing a 5 to 9.
Right. So somebody might have like a product on Etsy, and it gets shipped for them, it gets packaged for them. People buy it, and it actually gets produced by somewhere else. That's running in the background. They're not even thinking about it. So that's a second stream of income while they're doing a day job. Imagine AI doing the same thing. Are we actually doing this podcast? I don't know. It's not us, really. Maybe not. Anyway, but I think what I was thinking, there's a concept that I look at where how all of this is coming together, and you have AR, XR, MR, VR, and now AI. And a lot of people are talking about how we can get deeper into the metaverse or into a virtual world or whatever, and you have all these headsets and things. But we need to figure out also how we get that metaverse and virtual world into our real world, and how does it interact? And what I call that convergence is the metavergence, and that metavergence is how all these things are going to come together with AI and begin to hopefully make our lives better, and maybe multiply the great gifts that we already have and the great skills, and take us further to do good things for the future.
So, given AI, obviously, like you said, you went to Cannes and everyone's talking about it. It's literally CMOs, CFOs, everyone is talking about AI at the moment. Those companies that aren't necessarily leveraging AI at the moment, do you think they'll get left behind?
Well, I mean, I can't imagine one company that's not talking about it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine one company that's not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Anybody that was resistant at any point have said, "Hey, we'll think about it later."
Yeah.
I mean, they're in somehow. In other words, I met somebody awesome, and she's from Hasbro, right? And they're doing different things with that, and then other companies like MasterCard to Samsung that you would think are normal, but all the way to of course Pinterest and other groups. Yeah. And so they're all looking at different ways that AI is going to help their companies, and all these CMOs and all these CDOs or whoever were all there, talking about how they leverage it, and they're sharing knowledge and sharing ideas and things like that. And this has been happening at different events, like in Davos and different places, obviously. But and it's going to continue. But so I don't think could companies be left behind. I think you may not see it like that. I think it's going to be every company is evolving in certain ways, and some may evolve in ways that happen really rapidly, even though they seem to be the last of the pack. But they've unlocked some way to use it, and it accelerates them up. So there's no way to tell which one will be last or first. I think it's every company is already trying to integrate and find ways to leverage it.
Yeah, awesome. And then I know you'd mentioned to me just on a separate note around Generation Alpha. I'd love for you to expand on that. I appreciate it. I mean, for me, even now, I don't know fully what you mean by it, so I'd love to pick your brain and understand a bit more what that means.
Yeah. So I think if you look at the generations, like if starting like I guess maybe Gen X, right, is they were the alternative generation or whatever, and it was the music and all these grunge and different hip hop, all this was rising that time. And you look at the millennial generation, and there was a lot going on with like influencing and the rise of social actually, and so social was a big thing for the millennial generation, and then and mobile, right? Yeah. That was all new.
I remember when Instagram was just a brick.
Right. Right. So where Gen X was like going from cassette tapes and VCRs to CDs to then, all these things. Millennials were already jumping into MP3s and, iPods and all those things, right? That wasn't there for Gen Xers as they grew. Yeah. And then when you get to Gen Z, this is the influencer generation. So everything's, TikTok and, all the, amazing dances. You don't want to see me do this.
Yeah. That documentary on Netflix about the cult.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's all that. And so now you have, you're going from Gen X to Gen, millennial or whatever, and then you have Gen Z, so Y and Z, and then you're at this place where it's called Gen Alpha. Yeah. And it's the AI generation, I think. And this is the first generation that's really, really starting out their life or growing up with AI as a thing. For their school, for their papers, for their projects, for their video games, for whatever might be coming and whatever they might be doing, even generating graphics and designs and pictures and things like that, right? Things that might be real, things that might not be real, all that stuff. That's happening right now. Before you could mock up a photo back then and Photoshop and do some stuff and whatever. Now it's being mocked up. You don't even know through AI. And so this is brand new. This is a big thing. And so Gen Alpha is going to be an interesting generation to watch because they are living truly in the metaverse and in AI. They're in it. And so how they will function and work in the future is going to be very different than the way we work and function in the future, right? Yeah. And so if I just take some my sons, like my oldest is he's 16, but he's autistic and he loves Minecraft and he's all into that and he has all these different things he's doing. Yeah, he's a gamer. And my youngest who just turned 11, he's deep into Roblox. And when you look at what's going on with them, I mean, it's fascinating because he's in there. He's got all these friends. This is how they and like if like Travis Scott shows up to do a concert or something in there, they all want to go. And if you didn't go, then or you couldn't get in because too many people are on the server. It's massive. Yeah, it's all virtual. Yeah, and he shows up in there and he's like larger than life. Yeah, no, that'd be cool. But AI could do that. Maybe. Yeah. I'll bring AI to do it. Yeah. But I think in Roblox they have these different artists showing up and stuff. And so if these kids didn't go to that, then they're left out, right? Yeah. Because the server didn't let them in or whatever. And so they feel that the next day at school or with their friends that they missed it, right? And so their FOMO or their missing out isn't that they didn't go to the party. They didn't actually get into a server. I mean, it's just totally different, right? I walked up to him one day and he's like, Dad, I can't talk to you right now. And I said, why? He says, well, I have a buyer. I'm like, you have a what? And he's like, a buyer. And so he's earned these virtual goods. And he's now figured out how to create a product detail page on a virtual goods sales site, like a PDP. And he's set up ways, almost like a virtual eBay thing.
He's got a genius like I have.
Well, and he's selling like products, right? And then all of a sudden, like
with virtual money or?
Yeah, virtual currency. So people go there, they want that good, and they come and show up in the video game, and they give that virtual currency or whatever. Yeah. And so he's doing all this, and he's like, yeah, I'm selling these things or whatever. And I said, well, why are you on this one day? I was like, why are you like pricing it all at zero? Like he had it at no price. And he's like, oh yeah, because I'm trying to get 5-star ratings and everybody wants it. And then I'm going to hike the price up or whatever. And his little way he says it. And I'm like, wait, what? So who taught you freemium model and gamification and how, and it was amazing. And like, this is the stuff they're learning,
You learn from kids as well, just even as an adult though.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, but anyway, but I won't go into all the detail. But it's very, very real for these kids, and sometimes it can be very exciting, and sometimes it can be very painful, and you can really sense how intense it can be for them. But that real world feelings, those real world moments, are happening in a non-real world, but they're feeling it in the real world, and that is going to shape and is shaping the future of how they're going to interact with society, and that's coming. So I think that is an interesting generation to watch.
Yeah, it's just going to get bigger.
Yeah, it's Generation AI.
Yeah. Well, on that note.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. And I thought maybe before we go, one
Okay.
thing you saw me do, I have to see if you can do the same.
Okay.
And so, look, I'm a Star Wars nerd. I love Star
Okay.
Wars.
Oh,
In your wave, talent offices here and everything here.
We have a
You
lot
have
of
a
Star
you have a
Wars.
lot of Star Wars. You have an awesome
Yeah.
stormtrooper. Maybe we'll post some photos of that.
One's downstairs and one upstairs.
Yeah. So I let loose a Chewbacca Wookiee
You might have to
growl.
do it again for me to understand.
I'm gonna do it.
Exactly.
And then we have to hear your Chewbacca Wookiee growl. So, all right, here it goes. Right. So, all right, here we go.
Okay, I feel like there was some technique.
There was a technique. It's totally
that you've
deep.
done for
Yeah.
that.
All right.
Wait. Yeah, we
Go.
said
Just go.
like-
Just go. Just do
It's
it.
like if I was to do an owl sound.
Just try.
No.
It's close. It's more like an Ewok, but
No.
Almost.
I need to do a bit more of like a gurgle.
it is. Try. Can you gargle? Try it.
Not a gurgle. I feel
That's
like
awesome.
that
That's pretty good.
first
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. That was really close.
one. I'll practice
Yeah.
it next time I see you.
That's it. I think Han Solo and the world of Star Wars would totally take you on the Millennium Falcon.
Huge Star Wars fan,
Yeah.
actually, so
You would
I'll
ride-
show him this and he's going to just shake his head and probably not say anything.
No, he'll love it. He will know that you would ride on every Millennium Falcon going forward, a ride ever, So anyway,
I think my dad even built one.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to talk to your dad. He sounds cool. Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. And may the force be with you.